With all the money and the weapons that we've sent overseas, a new finding suggests that our country could very well run out of ammunitions in less than a week if we had a conflict with China. Does this even surprise you? U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is putting his money where his mouth is as he says that Social Security and Medicare cuts are now off the table. A former Walmart CEO is warning that American consumers are in for a world of hurt if the president doesn't act soon. And speaking of President Biden, he now sees a bright future ahead of the United States and the American people and even gave his word as a Biden. Does that now ease your worries when it comes to our expenses? Can we now put our faith in President Biden or perhaps our credit card bills? Do you feel as if rent will go down after this? Tell me what you guys think about President Biden leaning on his family name as an assurance for better days for the American people ahead. Now, before I continue, please take a second, smash the like button. That always helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to make some noise and spread the facts to the people, consider subscribing for your daily dose of the truth and go ahead and hit that notification bell. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was put on the spot in an interview where he was asked about cuts to Social Security. But here's what happened.
Are you willing to consider any reductions to Social Security and Medicare?
No, let's take those off the table.
Completely.
I mean, if you read our commitment to America, all we talk about is strengthening Medicare and Social Security.
When asked how he would strengthen Social Security, McCarthy diverted the discussion back to the spending that the government has been doing together with the debt that has been accumulated. Now, on the topic of spending, former President Donald Trump has commented on the Biden administration's plan to send over tanks to the Ukraine. According to a post on Truth Social, quote, "First come the tanks, then come the nukes. Get this crazy war ended now. So easy to do," end quote. He also said that if he was president, he would have negotiated an end to the war in 24 hours. Wow. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has already said that he does not plan on negotiating for peace any longer. And since both Germany and the United States have already announced their plans to send tanks, it's now time to fast track talks on giving them long-range missiles and military aircraft. The Kremlin is furious about the tanks that are being sent.
Я в шоці! Охереть! Блін, і куди воно? Блін.
Minister, can you get the tanks to Ukraine in time?
Of course we will.
How long will it take to get there?
At the end of the first quarter of the year. And that's what we are going to do.
How many months? 2, 3, 4?
I just said at the end of March, I think.
Из европейских столиц, из Вашингтона постоянно звучат заявления о том, что направление различных систем вооружений, в том числе танков, на Украину никоим образом не означает вовлеченность этих стран или альянса в боевые действия, которые происходят на Украине. Мы с этим категорически не согласны, и в Москве все, что делает и альянс, и упомянутая мной столица, воспринимается как прямая вовлеченность в конфликт. Мы видим, что она растет.
I wonder just how bad things will get if we agree to the demands of Zelensky and send aircrafts into battle as well. Now, part of the omnibus bill sent almost $50 billion to Ukraine, and now U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has targeted the spending as a key talking point for the Biden administration's pressure on him to essentially raise the debt limit. He added this, quote, "You got a president sitting in the White House trying to tell me that he can't negotiate, that there's no place and no waste in government spending, and that I should just raise the debt limit after it's $31 trillion, 120% of GDP. We haven't been at this position before to debt since World War II, end quote. Is this a precursor to World War III? He also has a huge problem with the government not laying out the budget for the American people to see. Would you guys want an audit of the government's spending? I mean, heck, the IRS has no problem auditing us. Now, if you ask President Biden, the economy is doing just fine.
In the last quarter of 2022, the economy grew 2.9%. Last summer, plenty of Wall Street analysts were saying that by the end of the year there'd be a recession. They've been telling me since I got elected we're going to be in a recession. Every time we've gotten better. Well, it turns out, thank God, they were wrong.
Do you agree with President Biden? Are we not in a recession? Or was the definition of a recession conveniently altered when the country went through 2 quarters of negative GDP? Should Americans be hopeful when credit card debt is at an all-time high while savings are historically low? When the housing market's shaking as we speak and those who receive Social Security, SSI, SSDI, they're struggling to make ends meet? Again, asking the president, he would say yes. In a recent tweet, he was full of optimism. Quote, "My word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future than I am today." End quote. Him giving his word on his birth name. Does this assure you more or make you worry about what's to come? Now, I can tell you who is worried. Former Walmart CEO Bill Simon said in a recent interview that, quote, "It's crazy right now. We're stuck in this loop of wage inflation, product inflation, and cost inflation. And it's just that cycle keeps going. And I think, unfortunately, an inevitable byproduct of some of the Fed's moves and as the necessary medicine we have to take to kind of cool things down and get inflation back under control on some of these layoffs that are coming." End quote. He also adds that if the president does not act now, 100% of the population will be in a very bad position as inflation is still out of control. You know what else is out of control? The amount of classified documents that former presidents and vice presidents have been revealed to have had during their terms. This could very well confirm that the National Archives doesn't really have a functioning filing system, as they now have asked former U.S. presidents and vice presidents to check their personal records for any classified documents. Heck, these guys don't even know what's missing. But here's what part of the NARA letter says. Quote, "We request that you conduct an assessment of any materials held outside of NARA that relate to the administration for which you serve as a designated representative under the PRA to determine whether bodies of materials previously assumed to be personal in nature might inadvertently contain presidential or vice presidential records subject to the PRA, whether classified or unclassified." End quote. They're basically saying, hey, we don't really record who takes top secret documents from our archives, but we would appreciate if you guys could just kind of bring back anything that you may have forgotten. Now, here's something the American people won't forget if it happens. A possible collusion with China may leave our country out of munitions. From a report released from the Center of Strategic and International Studies, it said that, quote, "According to a series of CSIS war games, the United States would likely run out of some munitions such as long-range, precision-guided munitions in less than 1 week in a Taiwan Strait conflict." End quote. That's some scary stuff, guys. And think of our strategic petroleum reserves. These are at historic lows. A conflict with China would prove to be challenging for our country at the very least. It seems like we're getting hit from all sides. Economy, labor market, global conflicts. Meanwhile, we continue to pump out dollars and weapons for everybody else. Who cares about the American people, right? Strong sarcasm. Now, we're not part of the government and we can't necessarily decide everything for them. We can, however, alter the way our life is going right now. Now, there are plenty of ways to improve our cash flow. There's the opportunities within our budget, the possibility of multiple streams of income through small businesses or side hustles. And of course, we cannot forget how investments in the stock market and even real estate can boost our finances, especially if we do our due diligence. Now, if you guys are interested in more on these topics, side hustles, starting small businesses, creating an online business as well, feel free to join us over in the Patreon community. There's a link in the description down below. But I'm excited for all of you guys to get back in the financial freedom. But before I go, please take a second, drop a thumbs up for the video. Also subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. There is no sense in being silent when we have the facts, y'all. I appreciate you guys watching. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you on the next one.